Journey to the Eternal Kingdom. Chapter 23. Will this night in the Valley of Death ever end? So Kingsley walked on, taking comfort in his unwitting companion. Finally, the day began to break. Just before dawn, it grew extremely cold, as if the Death Angel had passed over the valley. Even in his armor, Kingsley felt the cold as it seeped into his bones. With the light breaking through the trees, which were not as dense as at the beginning of the pathway leading into the Valley of Death, he looked back and could see the dangers he had faced but never encountered because of the presence of the good king.
I am sure my guardian angel worked overtime last night to keep my foot from slipping and falling, either into the ditch or the bog.
As he looked, he saw spirits, like drifting wafts of smoke, float away from him, keeping their distance as if he were to be feared. He knew it was because of the presence of the Lord, who had sent his holy angels to guard and direct his steps through this long and frightening night. A song of praise rose up in his heart, and he cried aloud,
All that I am, praise the Lord. Everything in me, praise his holy name. My whole being, praise the Lord, and I will not forget all his kindnesses.
Now that the sun had risen enough to light his way, Kingsley looked ahead, ready to continue his journey. He gasped in surprise.
Oh my goodness!
The path ahead appeared to be even more dangerous than the one he had just walked through. Ahead of him were snares, traps, ledges that crumbled when touched, deep holes and nets which the wicked soldiers had set for unwary feet. He now understood the ways of the good king even better. As horrible as last night had been, and though he would never wish to endure it again, he realized that, unlikely as it seemed, that was the safer part of the journey. Traversing it at night was frightful, but it was still safer than this second part of the pathway. If one were caught in the dark here, it would take a miracle to survive. It was hard going, and Kingsley, tired from lack of sleep, really wanted to rest. But he knew that stopping in this valley would mean certain death. Soon he was nearing the end of the valley. As he approached the exit, he saw bones, ashes, and putrefied bodies of previous pilgrims lining the pathway. One pilgrim had sacrificed his life to warn others of the large cave at the side of the mountain, right at the end of the Valley of Death. The prince was determined to stop pilgrims one way or another. If they survived the Valley of Death, he planned to destroy them by the giants, pagan and papal, who lived in the cave. Kingsley grew afraid and gripped his sword more tightly, ready to fight to the death if necessary. He had come too far to turn back or run away in fear, even though he knew he alone could not defeat a giant. However, after the night he had just endured, he knew beyond a shadow of doubt that God was with him. If he had to fight, it would be only through the strength and power of God. With as much stealth as he could muster, Kingsley walked softly past the cave, fearing at any moment the giants would leap out at him. To his surprise, he passed without incident, except for a giant old man sitting at the mouth of the cave, cursing at him. Oh, how that old giant would have loved to grab that little boy and drag him inside, but he had no strength to do so and never even stood up. Kingsley, at first afraid but finally seeing he could not move, paid him no mind and happily continued his journey. Later, when he caught up with Steadfast, he learned that Pagan had died long ago. Papal was now old, stiff, and feeble, and all he could do was grind his teeth in frustration because he could no longer harm God's people. Soon, Kingsley came to the end of the Valley of Death. The pathway began to rise in a slight incline. This was the design of the good king, so that pilgrims could see what lay ahead. Looking forward, Kingsley saw Steadfast in the distance, walking with determined steps. Excited at last to see someone he recognized, Kingsley cried out loudly,
Steadfast, wait up! It's me, Kingsley, your once neighbor from the city of Babylon.
At this, Steadfast stopped and looked back. He waved, then continued walking.
Wait up, please. Let me catch up to you so we can walk together.
My journey lies ahead. I am going to see the king. Death and snares are ever around and behind me.
Kingsley realized Steadfast was not going to wait, so he burst forward with speed, determined to catch up. Not only did he catch up, but because he was going so fast and with the weight of his armor, he could not stop easily. He flew past Steadfast. Pride swelled in his heart for a brief moment. Then, just as quickly, he tripped and fell. Because of his armor, he could not get up quickly before Steadfast reached him, but Steadfast kindly extended his hand and pulled him to his feet. Kingsley knew this was the king's doing, gently keeping him humble. Now, Kingsley was happy he no longer had to journey alone. Steadfast was equally glad for the company. Though Kingsley was younger than he, Steadfast found him to be a good companion.
I am so happy I finally caught up with you. Ever since the porter told me you had passed that way, I hoped to find you.
I'm equally happy to have your company, Kingsley. I wish to join you sooner, but you left so suddenly. I always regretted not telling you how I truly felt about the good king. I have been walking ever since with the hope of catching up to you.
Is that why you didn't stop at the Palace of Delight? Or stop for me when I called out to you?
Yes, and I must be honest. I was also distrustful. I wondered why you were behind me instead of ahead, since you left long before I did.
I stayed at the Palace of Delight for a few days, which is why I am behind you instead of in front. How long after me did you begin your journey?
Oh, I waited until I could bear it no longer. For a while, your leaving caused a great stir. People wondered what you had heard. Many were speaking of the destruction to come. Bindi returned as a conquering hero, but soon his story filled people with fear and doubt because of the Slough of Despond. They wondered, if danger is so near our beautiful city, what lies farther ahead? At first, everyone wanted to hear his tale. Then they began to mock him for being so faint-hearted, leaving a boy younger than himself to die. I fear everyone in Babylon believes you are dead, Kingsley. Security from the prince was tightened. No one was allowed to leave without scrutiny. However, after a while, people forgot their fears and returned to their lives as usual. That was when I decided I had enough of Babylon and slipped out one night when the soldiers were less vigilant.
Oh, I will pray for Bendy. He had courage to leave once. Perhaps he will find it again. I do not understand why they hated him when he left, and yet hated him when he returned. Sin is such a mystery. Let us change the subject. Tell me, my friend, who have you met, and how has your adventure been so far?